Welcome to World Mission Topics, Lesson 9. I do not own the rights to this music. Today's topic is circumcision without hands. The lesson text is coming out of Colossians chapter 2, verse 11, Genesis chapter 17, verses 10 and 11, Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 16, Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 6, and Galatians chapter 5, verse 24. The memory verse, in whom also ye are circumcised with the circumcision made without hands, and putting off the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Christ. And that's Colossians chapter 2, verse 11. The key terms for today's lesson: circumcision, deliberation, mohel. Circumcision, the action or practice of cutting off the foreskin of a young boy or man, especially a baby, for religious, cultural, or medical reasons. Deliberation, long and careful consideration or discussion. Mohel, in Hebrew, a person trained to perform Jewish circumcisions. For the rest of the quarter, we will move with great deliberation, basically verse by verse, through this final major section of Christology in the epistle, Colossians chapter 2, verses 11 through 15. We will pick these verses apart, trying to unpack this very dense teaching about Christ. This week, our attention falls on verse 11. Here we have Paul using the metaphor of circumcision, the implications of which his first century audience would have readily understood, but about which modern readers may need a refresher course. Emphasis 1. The sign of circumcision. The scriptural background of circumcision is that it is a covenant sign of the people of God. This is my covenant, which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised, and ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you. And that's Genesis chapter 17, verses 10 and 11. Of course, circumcision in the Old Testament was only a sign, pointing to something else. Moses clarified the matter when he used the metaphor of circumcision to discuss internal issues of the Israelite heart. Circumcise therefore the foreskin of your heart, and be no more stiff-necked, and that's Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 16. The sign was of what had to change in the Israelites' personality and behavior. Stubbornness must be cut away, not just the foreskin. Emphasis 2. The distinction between the flesh and the body. But Paul pulls his audience away from any conventional understanding of circumcision when he tells the Colossians, "Ye are circumcised with the circumcision not made with hands," and that's Colossians chapter 2, verse 11. Clearly, the argument is that in union with Christ, there is a separation of some sort. At first, we may assume it is merely physical, because the body is referenced, but the precise language Paul uses is meaningful. Reading the King James Version and putting off the body of the sins of the flesh may sound like some kind of rejection of the physical body, but a good paraphrase is helpful here. When you came to Christ, you were circumcised, but not by a physical procedure. Christ performed a spiritual circumcision, the cutting away of your sinful nature. And that's Colossians chapter 2, verse 11. There is a distinction between the body and the flesh. Usually when Paul speaks of the flesh, he means the internal characteristics that animate the body. For example, and they that are Christ have crucified the flesh with the affections and lusts. Galatians, and that's Galatians chapter 5, verse 24. Here, the flesh speaks of human nature, affections, and lusts, rather than body parts. Emphasis 3. Without human hands. Paul further says that this curtailing of our sinful nature is performed directly by the Lord. This was promised even in the Old Testament. And the Lord thy God will circumcise thy heart, and the heart of thy seed, to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. And that's Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 6. That prophecy of Moses illustrates that physical circumcision practiced by the Israelites was a typological representation of what God would do himself. As the skilled mohel would use a knife to trim a little skin from the 8-day-old baby boy, God would trim the sin nature from the believing Christian. Missions application questions. Number 1. What spiritual truth did the covenant sign of circumcision point to? Number 2. What is the distinction between the body and the flesh? And number 3. What is a circumcision without hands? World Missions Prayer Points. Let us pray that the foreskin of our hearts be circumcised and we master our inclination to sin. Let us pray to remember that the transformation of our hearts was God's work. The end. God bless you and thank you for joining me today.